Okay, so you kind of touch upon this a little bit, but when they came to this country, what
Mhm.
types of adversity did they go through? You said that she was treated differently.
Mhm. Yeah, so my nana told me this story that she went to the store with her sister-in-law, which is m- um her husband's brother's wife, and so the workers knew that they were Italian, they can just tell, like their accent, the way they were talking. Um, and, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the word guinea. That's kind of like a derogative term to call Italians. So she walked in, and the workers were like laughing at her, and they were calling her that name. Like, let's say, like there were two employees, they were talking to each other. They were like saying, "Oh, look at those guineas." I don't know. They were saying something along those lines, and they were like laughing. And my nana like felt so uncomfortable because like here she is like going to like the store for like the very first time in a new country she's never been in before, and she's like being laughed at for no reason. She just simply walked in the door. Like she didn't do anything. And she didn't even know she just kept hearing them say that word, but she didn't really know what it meant. So she went home and she told my nono the story, and he was already familiar with the word, he knew, and he like looked at her, he's like, I don't want you to go into that store again. He's like, he told her like, what that means, and she cried and cried because she was so upset because in the beginning she felt very discriminated. She felt very like, she just didn't feel comfortable. She felt like people were always like making fun of her, so that was one out of many examples that she told me of things that she went through. Even she used to get like when Koreans, she was like outside, like one time, like people were throwing like empty glass bottles at her, and she was actually pregnant too with my uncle, and like it was just some stories, like it's very, like hearing those what she went through. It's almost like I can't get upset if I can't tie my shoe right because this woman is getting called names in the store. Like every time like something happens to me like that, I'm just like, listen, none of I got called these names.
Right.
I just can't worry about this right now. Like it's okay. I can type, so it's just, but those stories that I'm sure many, whether you're Italian or any other culture, I'm sure everyone's been through something similar, so but yeah, that's something that she went through, you know.
And I think it's so important for people now
Mhm.
to be talking more and more about things like this, because I think that something that Italian Americans in particular did, kind of just, I think, as a coping strategy, kind of, was that they didn't really talk about these experiences. They kind of
Mhm.
kept them to themselves and um, didn't necessarily talk to their kids about it. It was kind of like just don't acknowledge it. And then they would move into like ethnic enclaves to kind of like almost like protect each other from situations like you just said
Mhm.
your grandma went through, and then just like not acknowledge those things. And I understand like emotionally why people would want to do that, but then the challenge is that then the larger society doesn't like understand like what the experience is like to be an Italian American, and then as like the kids of those people, then it's like, okay, like, well, if you really want to understand your culture and kind of where you are in all of this, it's like
Mhm.
you it's great to know kind of where you're coming from. Because the same, and the reality is this, like the same way that we are the children of them, that family, not that family, those people who were like saying those things
Mhm.
to her in the store, and the other situation when she was pregnant, um they had kids,
Exactly.
meaning like just because people don't say stuff out loud doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And
Mhm.
um when I when I was at Columbia, like there was definitely like you know, microaggressions and like thinking it was okay to say certain things that was like really offensive, things like that. So I just think like being able to kind of share that and be like, oh, you went through that, I went through that, like my family experienced that. And it also shows too like why a lot of people coming from our background kind of maybe we're scared to kind of step out of their comfort zone and maybe do different types of jobs or things like that, because it was like, well, if I'm going to be the only person and maybe people discriminate against me, I'm just going to like stay in my lane. And as a result of that, then like their children like are like, well, okay, cool, but like now it's like maybe I don't want to own, I'm thinking about my family, like maybe I don't want to own a bakery or like continue the family business, like maybe I want to do something else, but like that it just becomes extra scary because it's like, well, people haven't before, you haven't done that
Hmm.
before. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
really
No,
valid.
I agree. That's very true. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also respect what you're saying about uh like, okay, she went through this, like if she went through this, I could deal with it. Like I totally get that. I totally get that. So the next time your Uber is late, be like, all right, well, my grandma was on a boat and people threw bottles at her. I think I'll be fine. Like it's just
My
like,
therapy strategies. I don't know my breathing techniques. I'll be like, think about Nana. I feel like you brought up the bakery. I've been working at a bakery in my neighborhood almost 4 years, an Italian bakery. So it's so cool because like, I get to like, be around Italian pastries all day. I'm surprised I'm not 500 pounds right now. But it's so fun because I have customers come in and they're old school Italian. I hear their stories too. Like it's like the connection, but like sometimes like I'll drop something like whatever, I'll mess up and I'm like, oh my god, and I'm like, wait, relax, hold on, think about the boat. Like envision like the Statue of Liberty, think about it. I'm okay. It's so funny,
we
but
should
it's true.
make we should make like social media posts like that. Like we should post that like on our Instagram, like memes and stuff of like we'll talk to Julia, we'll figure it out. But
Yeah, yeah.
like what would Nona do like in this situation?
And everyone look at the Statue of Liberty like this, like what
Right,
would she do?
right,
Like breathe like yoga, like a spa. Like we should have
right.
Italian American like yoga sessions themed. Have like the Statue of Liberty like right in the center and have everyone like on a mat like they came here 7 days. Breathe in. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I get creative.
That's amazing. That's
Oh man, the tears are real.
oh my god.